Good evening, everyone. Tonight for our She Reads podcast on November the 30th, we have the beautiful and talented Callie Katz. She is the CEO of Luxe and Lush and is a Kansas City-based author. Has a drive for going beyond the standard after leaving the arenas of national and major league sports. She redefined her role as a leading female entrepreneur, proven by the luxe clientele and retreats she has built into her business over the years. Her mission over the years. Her mission is to inspire powerhouse women in becoming something greater than they've ever known. Today, Callie coaches authors across the country, elevating lifestyles, landing six-figure book launches, and attracting celebrity partnerships. Callie can be found celebrating life with her husband and family, friends, popping champagne, and hiking the mountains of Colorado. So please, let's welcome Miss Callie.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be able to have this opportunity to sit down with you all.
Thank you. Callie, if you could, for our people who are listening here, if you could tell us a little bit about your company, Luxe and Lush.
Yeah, for sure. So Luxe and Lush was created out of the idea of celebrating yours or my champagne dreams. And what that means is I was at a place in my life, and this is part of my story, where I felt like I was watching from the sidelines, and I wanted to be the all-star quarterback. And, I think there's moments in our lives, which are obviously teachable moments, but you somehow ask yourself, when is it going to be my turn?
Yes.
And so that's how Luxe and Lush was created. So Luxe and Lush currently is a boutique luxury strategy business focused on public relations, publicity, and elite marketing. And so we work with clients in all genres, specifically female entrepreneurs and small business owners. And we are here to take their brands and businesses from bottom shelf to top shelf. And so we focus on brand exposure. We focus on creating elite marketing pieces for them to be able to attract more followers on social media. If their product lines, we hope to expand their product lines into national retail locations, creating features for top tier magazines, you name it. We want you as a business owner to be celebrated like you deserve to be. And so that is what Luxe and Lush is about.
Well, thank you. That does sound like a phenomenal thing. I think that a lot of companies out there, the women work hard. They put in that 80-hour week, they don't get any time to themselves, and, yes, they may be bringing home some of the bacon, maybe not as much as they would like to, but they're so busy, they don't have time to celebrate themselves. Or they're so busy trying to figure out how to put all the pieces together. And especially during COVID, how to get themselves out there and to get clientele or to get business that, they don't celebrate themselves, and they really should, for all their accomplishments and for what they're going to do. So having someone like you that can be in their corner and celebrate them, yeah, that's definitely a bonus.
Yes, and I couldn't agree more. I think a lot of it was seeing that most of us find ourselves in positions where we are literally wearing all the hats in our businesses because we get so stuck working in the business rather than working on the business. And at the end of the day, that can be your biggest holdup. And that's probably one of the key areas we teach our clientele, that you're not supposed to wear all the hats.
Correct.
Our biggest belief is in delegating and finding a luxury suite of professionals like Luxe and Lush provides for our clientele that are elite in all the areas. For example, we have one of our staff members that is amazing at creating elite marketing on social media and social campaigns. And so we'll have her work with our clients or our photographers or if you need a fresh look, but most importantly, you also need somebody pitching your business. You don't have time to be pitching your business if you're working in it. And so that's our job, is to expose you to your audiences and your markets so that they know who you are at the end of the day.
Yes, definitely. I think that, again, I think that's a great thing, and it's true that even if you're not in a major company or a CEO or business, you do try and wear all the hats of everyday life. And I think for women, it's kind of expected, that we wear all the hats, and that, I don't know necessarily that people always take us seriously in our businesses and what we do, and the fact that we're mothers and we're, wives, and we're, business owners, and we're doing all these things, and people just kind of take that for granted. So, thanks to you who's out there to help these women kind of get their voice out there, get their product out there, get them connected to people that can really help move them along and kind of expand their company.
Yes, for sure. I think part of the reasons, as we talk about elevating in your business, at the end of the day, if you are playing mother, wife, whatever that role is behind the scenes of your business, how are you rewarding yourself, and who's leaving room for yourself? And so we do have an elite coach on staff who works with each of our clients, because as you elevate and grow your business, you personally, from an internal holistic standpoint, also have to be growing and stepping into a new level, because you've never crossed this bridge before. This is uncharted territory.
Exactly.
So that's why we do have coaching on staff to help with our business owners, because every 90 days, mentally or habitually, you're going to have another shift. And so we're here to make sure that you keep growing with your business.
And, something I was thinking of, I don't know if it really applies, but thinking back a long time ago, when people thought the world was flat, and when they looked at the horizon, nobody wanted to reach for the horizon because they were afraid of what was going to happen. And so there are people there that tell you there is something beyond that horizon, and it's going to be even better than you ever thought, and it's going to be great, keep going, is really what people need. And for those that have never gone beyond a certain point and don't know how to get to the next level, they may be terrified. So having someone that's saying, hey, here we go, this is what happens afterwards, and we're here to take you there,
that's the perfect way. That's the perfect way of explaining it. I think that's what it comes down to, is you don't know what you don't know yet, but we're here to show you what is possible and how to get you there.
Yes. Now, when you were writing your book, did you find that you had any struggles when you were writing the book?
Oh my gosh, yes. For sure. I mean, writing a book, as I have found out, and as I speak with other authors over the years, it's no easy feat. And, I've always been a bookie from as a young child. I've always enjoyed reading books. And I remember hearing stories of other authors saying, oh, this book has been in the works for 3 years or 5 years or whatever it was. And I always remember thinking, why is it taking them so long? But now I know, this book took me 2 years. And I started the majority of the process in this book during when we had the heightened time of COVID. And so obviously it gave me a good project to work on at the time. But yes, my timing's not everybody else's timing, and lives were shifting. And so I really had to dig down deep and figure out who was going to be in this book and who was going to be able to sustain a role in this book past the initial publishing date, because now we're looking at a long-term plan for 2023 with this book. And so not only just, having other collaborators in this book, but just from a mental process too. You learn so much about yourself sitting at your desk for hours upon hours. And as an author or aspiring one at the time, I was in my own trenches. I was digging into my own inner grit to keep me going.
Yes. Now, one of the things you do say in the introduction was, in that water thick with silt, I discovered that if you laid out face down and kicked your feet very fast, when you came up for air, you had suddenly moved forward. And I suddenly knew what swimming was all about. Elaborate a little bit on that.
Yeah. So in the beginning of that book, there is a quote written by my grandfather. And I have the original article that was published with that quote in it. And I was reading it one day and I realized this is a piece of my legacy. This was his gift to me as a young child, and I didn't know it until nearly 40 years later. And it hit me one day that it's what I've been doing my entire life. I keep fighting, I keep grinding, I keep moving forward, even through the thickest of trenches. And it's what's gotten me to the other side in many opportunities because I wasn't willing to give up on myself and just lie there and be done. And so that's when I realized this is what this book is about, and this is who I am. And there are so many other female entrepreneurs across this country and internationally that can remind themselves of that very same thing.
And that's true. I think that, that unless you really, in a sense, quote, know how to swim, you're not going to go anywhere. So it's the point of, do you want to move forward or do you want to stay stuck?
Right. You hear people talk about, oh, I'm not comfortable with change and I don't like change, but those are the people that their lives do change. They just don't feel like they're personally shifting to bigger chances or anything like that. Our lives are always evolving. Us as humans are always evolving. But at the end of the day, are you too comfortable? And if that's your place, great. If you want to stay on that shelf, that's ultimately up to you. But for those who want to hop off the shelf or get to the higher shelf, you've got to make some game playing moves here.
Now, tell us about what it was like for you. You talk in your chapter about how you worked for the sports arenas, and
Yes.
especially like when you worked for like the soccer, and how you were working for them. And tell us what that was like for you. That was really kind of I think a hard thing for me. And you got out, thank goodness, unscathed somewhat.
Right. I've always been a very intuitive person. I always feel like I've been able to read people or read my environment fairly well. Working in those sports arenas taught me a lot for sure and challenged me in so many ways as such a young adult. I mean, I left college after graduating on a Friday and I started in one of the top sports arenas in the country on that Monday. I was always going to make big moves, and I had it out from day one that I was never going to settle. I was always going to go straight to the top and keep challenging my career, because at the time I thought I was going to end up in sports marketing as a lifetime career. It's different now when, we see so much turnover in our careers, where before you saw a consistency of our parents and our parents before them stay in their jobs 30 plus years at a time. And as I worked through these challenges and in these environments, I began to find out who I could trust, who I couldn't trust, and most importantly, what was really happening behind the scenes of some of these organizations. And I mean, I'll be honest, it appalled me. I felt like I was in a very toxic environment, and it was. There's no feeling like it. I just hadn't been exposed to those types of professional environments before. So there was definitely a learning curve along the way within those. And you're right, I did get out seemingly at the best times each time in each of those arenas. And I'd like to think that God had a hand in helping me get out so that I wouldn't be caught in a position I wasn't supposed to be in.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I think it was almost like divine intervention.
Oh, for sure. Exactly. And, I've always, like I said, I've always been an intuitive person. And I would always get that feeling inside of my stomach saying, ooh, something's not right here. Or sometimes driving up to the organization that day, just feeling sick to my stomach because I didn't know what was going to happen around me that day. My body was telling me there was something wrong until my eyes could be proven physically.
Right.
Wendy, anything you want to
So,
say?
yes, for sure. I was listening. This is great. And I apologize for just now being to jump in. I wanted to ask the question because I've heard some of the things that you have mentioned with regards to when the pandemic took place, and how my question was going to be for you. Did you see it as an opportunity once the pandemic happened, which some businesses may have and some may not, but surely based on what it is that you've shared with us thus far, you certainly saw it as an opportunity and not a pitfall.
Right.
But so, go ahead.
No, yeah, I can agree with you in that, Wendy, and just because I knew at the end of the day, no matter what the pandemic was doing, I still had control over what I was supposed to be doing and where I was working and who I was working with. And beyond that, and I hate saying this because a lot of people did get, affected by it, but at the time in my life, I was okay. And I knew no matter what, I was still going to be okay.
Right.
And I didn't let that stop or deter me from not writing more or not working on branding opportunities or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Now, did it hold up the book to an extent? Yes, but that was on me. I felt like the world wasn't in a place to be able to have this book out there at that time. I don't think it would have received the attention or the partnerships that it has thus far. And so I held off on publishing during a pandemic year.
Yes, and I can see where that made sense. So that tells me that you are constantly refining yourself as an individual and which goes back to that the quote from your grandfather that you still propel forward, even though for some it may feel like it's stagnant, but for you it's a constant moving forward, even if it's an inch, even if it's a half an inch. You keep refining yourself, and that is beautiful. I want to ask this question, and Laura may have. What made you decide to take a look and be interested in what other women may have been entrepreneurs, excuse me, and how they chose to meet the needs of not only their clients but themselves? What made you decide, you know what, I'm going to take this book and I'm going to do some interviews? What inspired you to do so?
I love that question, actually. And I realized everything that I'd gone through in the professional sports arenas, it not only was just happening to me, it was happening everywhere.
Right.
And a lot of that goes left unsaid.
Yeah.
And from that stemmed frustration, from that stemmed self-doubt, just the pure exhaustion of what path or what am I supposed to do next?
Right.
And how do I get my champagne dreams? And I remember being on the phone with a friend at the time, telling her, why isn't this out there? Why aren't people sharing the stories of what this journey really takes?
Yes.
And that's when I came up with it that night. And I literally said to her on the phone, I said, I'm going to be the one to put it out there. I'm going to allow these women to have a platform to share their stories on, to talk about the grind, to talk about getting their hands dirty and digging your heels in the mud, because I think people are more transparent now than they ever have been. in our industries, which is a good thing. But I also believed, you know, as one who indulges in personal development and, like you said, refining my skill sets, when I would attend conferences, you know, you get excited and you want to be a part of their community. And at the end of the day, they're selling you on their dream and not yours. Now, I'm not saying everybody does that. There are some amazing conferences and speakers out there as individuals, as part of their companies. However, there are those who are literally there to sell you their dream, but then you get lost in it. And so I wanted to be able to have a platform to share these women's stories. And from there, it took off as to say, okay, who's next? Who is willing to put their voice out there on a national and international platform?
Gotcha. That makes great sense. And I tell you, being an entrepreneur myself, when I started reading your book, I said, wow, I can relate to that. I've experienced that. I know what they're talking about. That's why I said the refining. And you're 100% correct with some of the conferences and webinars that I've even participated in. I can remember when the pandemic started and everybody's kind of down in the dumps. And I'm saying, no, I'm going to utilize this time to refine and refresh. And I was grateful in reading your book to find out there were more women that were doing the very same thing. And we seized it as an opportunity versus a pitfall in our business.
Right. You know, I'm a huge believer in you can play the victim card or not. That's up to you. And it is stepping forward. It is swimming forward, as we speak about. And I think it takes a strong personality or someone helping to teach somebody. You've got more grit than what you think you do. Get up and start dancing.
Well,
I'm sorry, I'm having a little I was having a little
that's
technical
okay.
difficulty there. But please, say your sentence again, Wendy. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying that I've enjoyed the book. It certainly has inspired me. It makes me want to look at it even more and relate to a lot of the same issues or something similar for myself and propel me forward. So thank you for sharing it.
Oh, you're more than welcome. And I just hope this book, wherever it goes, lands in the hands of those who need it the most.
Yeah.
You know, you never know what somebody's going to get out of reading something, and whether it's that inch or half an inch that you speak of, it's something. And
Right.
we have to realize that no matter how big or small, it does count.
I love the title. I would have never thought of silt. I was like, you know what? That's a great word.
Well, you can thank my grandfather for that one as well. That this book is actually titled after his article, so it was a tribute to him. He had an article that was called "Sink or Swim, Come Sweater Silt."
Okay.
And so that's when I knew exactly what this book was going to be about. And we use the sink or swim tagline as we speak about this book and as in our marketing campaigns, but also it's what this title is. It's come sweater silt. Are you going to allow yourself to get caught up in the silt on the street or wherever you may be that's trying to hold you back? Or are you going to sweat through it and push to the other side?
Right. Right. All right. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome.
All right, Laura, I don't want to take over.
No, you can ask as many questions as you like. That's what I like, you know, trying to have different viewpoints and different questions. So this is perfect.
Yeah.
Callie, tell us one thing that is you find the hardest thing about the interview process.
when I'm interviewing other collaborators?
Yes.
Probably, I have to say, everyone I invited into this project, for the most part, was very open to being in this book. They saw what I saw. So in that sense, interviewing and connecting for me was very smooth. Now, the hardest piece to that, because of the way this book is formatted, was we would record the interview on Zoom, and then I would by hand write out words verbatim on a piece of paper or writing it on my computer. So 5 minutes on an interview would take 30, 40 minutes handwriting sometimes, because you have to stop and pause and make sure they said this. And so, I would have people ask me, well, why don't you get a transcriber or anything like that? But for me, this was such a hands-on project. And if I'm the one writing it, I like to get those words in my head. And then that's where my wheels start turning as to how I'm going to utilize and format the flow of this book. And so that big piece right there, as far as transcribing it myself, was a huge task in the taking. I remember staying up, till midnight most nights, or 1 a.m., just like glued to the computer, trying to say, okay, I'm going to do this much in this chapter or this person. And, for sure, it was a project at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it sounds like it would be. I mean, gosh, having to do it all yourself, and to write it all out. But by doing that, I think by yourself and doing it, your way, in a sense, you definitely get it down word for word.
Yeah, for sure. And my publisher, she's so amazing, and she really helped guide me through this process, and would tell me, only do it for this many minutes, or, set up a space for yourself that's more rewarding. If it means going to the coffee shops or lighting a candle, or any little helpful hints like that, that would be able to help me set the stage for being able to work through that process.
Definitely. And out of all the people that you interviewed, which one was your favorite?
Oh my gosh, you're gonna make me pick a favorite. That's so unfair.
Or maybe one that just inspired you the most.
Danger.
I will say some of the stories absolutely fathomed me. And being able to connect with these people and them to feel safe and worthy in a place to share their details of their stories with me was very, very humbling. And for those of you who haven't read the book yet, some of these stories are of tragedy, are of heartbreak, are of loss, are of unshakable faith. And it really humbled me. It really allowed me to take a step back and pause and be grateful that they were a part of this project. And then other stories or other people, when we interviewed each other, we would just sit there and laugh and just have a great time on Zoom. And, those are the memories I really get from reflecting on who I interviewed in this book. Not necessarily there was one particular person, but the moments of what I felt when I was connecting with everyone while they were being interviewed.
Now, at one point in time in your book, when you were talking about your story, you said how one of the jobs you were going to every day, like you wanted to throw up, that when you were getting there, you were so apprehensive, you could feel that there was just something not right about the job. And it really was very hard to kind of break away from that. And it was like dreading going every day. And when you got out of that job and they fired you, unfortunately, or fortunately, you
Right.
had your parents, and they said, well, let's celebrate. And also another woman in your book who was kind of on this roller coaster, and she was pushing herself, pushing herself, pushing herself. Her daughter became very ill. She finally took care of it and got her daughter better. And then she herself became very ill, and she wasn't sleeping. And, she was getting up at 5 a.m. to do those morning rituals, until like 8 a.m. and then starting her day. And what would you say to people who are going through something like that? And they just don't know. That's kind of like a cycle, and they don't know how to get out of that.
Right. I think we're all guilty of playing into the grind card. And I don't even want to use the word hustle, even though I just did, just because I think that word got so overused and overtrained in our minds as female entrepreneurs. And at the same time, until you hit that bottom, or until you have a health crisis or something that stops you in your tracks, it makes you realize, I've got to change some things. I've got to change my ways. And joining the 5 a.m. club doesn't work for everybody. There's been books published out there that say, in order to be successful, you need to do this, this, and this. That doesn't work for everybody. If you have a better flow, find that, or help someone guide you into finding that for yourself. Because, for years, I was that 5 a.m. club person. I would get up and grind and even be working at 5 a.m. And that doesn't work for me in this time in my life anymore, nor do I want to be there. So I think for someone who's curious and finding out how can I best streamline my processes so that I'm not dog tired at the end of the day and, pounding down caffeine at 9 o'clock at night just to keep going, that's your body's way of telling you need to stop. If you are running on an empty tank of gas, there is nothing left for you. And so I think that's also a wake-up call to each of us to say, okay, something's got to change here before I go too far down the road and I can't reverse.
Very true. Did you ever think, with everything that you were going through with school and everything, that, you would become an author?
It's funny. I talk about this in the book. As a young child, if you asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I was always saying, I want to be, a best-selling author or well-known author or whatever the term was for my little old self then. And then life happens. You grow up, you go to school, you gather new community and friends, and you just experience life. And so towards, when I was in college, and then also post-college when I was working for those large sports arenas, I thought I was going to be an executive in a sports marketing public relations world. That changed for me. And so then I went into a different career. And in the last 5 to 10 years, I still felt on my heart that I wanted to write. That passion, it had never left me. Yeah. I just thought it did. But then maybe that was a gentle reminder to myself of I still have work to do. And so I believe totally in divine timing, and, what shows up in your life is meant to. And so that's when the book became a piece of my journey. And I knew it was time to begin that authorship. And so I have a friend who I was talking to, and she knew my dreams. And on my, bucket list of career was to write a book. And she connected me with a CEO of a national publishing house. And from there, the journey took its own pace. So that's how that came into play.
And it's really amazing, because how many people when they're younger and like a child say, I'm going to write a best-selling book. And then as they get older, they actually do. Like that they actually go back and they remember their dream and they say, yeah, that's what I wanted to do. It meant so much to me, and it still does. And I'm going to continue with that, instead of saying, oh, that's nonsense. From when I was younger, that would never happen. I've got to do adult things now or something.
Right. I totally agree. I think there's something to be said about following my heart and knowing I was still meant to write. How it came about or how it went away and transpired itself in physical form, I took actions for sure, but I never would have thought I'm going to go back to that had you asked me 20 years ago.
Yeah. Who do you find is one person that is your biggest inspiration?
Ooh, that's a good one. I find it's not for me just one individual necessarily. I find inspiration in people that are self-made, that know that they're capable of more than what life hands them. And for me, whether you're another small business owner or a celebrity, at the end of the day, what matters to me is who you are on the inside. I like to bring up the golden rule, but it's how you do treat yourself and treat others.
Yes.
My audience personally for me is not those who are manipulators and getting what they want or how they treat people, or ones that do play the victim card. Because I do think at the end of the day, most of the time, we do have a choice. I would never wish upon anybody for a circumstance that they can't get out of that is very toxic. So I don't want those words to be light. I just find in my own experiences and in talking with others that I do that if you want it bad enough, you're going to fight for it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Who is one
I have a-
person? Oh, sorry, go ahead. Nope.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No,
It's fine.
go ahead, Wendy.
Okay, I have one question that listening to everything it is that you've just said, if you were to write an autobiography, what would the title be? What do you think your title would be? I'm curious.
You got me on that one a little bit. Good question. Just off the top of my head is a term we use in the book is true grit.
Okay. All right.
For some reason that I can relate to, very relatable. And what does it really take in an honest, respectful way to where you're honoring yourself and others in your journey?
Okay. All right. I can't wait for that one.
Well, we do have, Come Sweater Silt is volume 1 of this series. And we are planning on continuing into a volume 2. And that book will be called Powerhouse Partnerships.
Okay, so it's taking us to another level.
Yes, it
Okay.
is.
All right. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, it's when we start that process, I don't know, because most of 2023 is going to be revolved around a webinar series with each of our collaborators where our audiences can really get to know each of these amazing women one-on-one, their businesses, have the opportunity to be guided and coached and work with them. We're looking at both national and a possible international book tour and obviously book signings and special events. So I'm very excited to bring all these women on board with me.
Yeah, that's going to be nice. And will some of these adventures, I'm going to call them, will they be included in this new book as well?
Yes.
Just to highlight some of the things that have taken place. All right.
Yep.
Well, everybody better get ready. Get ready.
Game on.
Okay.
Kind of like you say in your book, that it's going to be, your life now is going to become a roller coaster. Get ready for the ride.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love that you brought that up. I do remember writing that, and I think I even said, it's going to be one hell of a ride or something like that. Yeah. But it's so true. When we look back at all our journeys, is it not? I mean, it's up and down and up and down, and away we go.
Mhm.
So,
Okay. All right, there's that true grit right there.
yep, you got it.
All right.
Is there anybody in your life that you wish you could have an interview with?
Oh yeah,
That's a
I've got
nice
a
one.
list on this one. You know, as far as so each book I aim to have celebrity partnerships in. So on my end, for a next book or another book down the road, I would love to interview women like Sandra Bullock or Melissa McCarthy, Jessica Alba, Oprah. I know she's on most people's list anyway, but women like that have really challenged themselves and taken the reins in their own lives and are truly living out their champagne dreams.
Mhm. Mhm.
I love Melissa McCarthy, I have to be honest.
I
Yeah.
do too. I do too. She is one of my favorites, and I just want to go have a glass of wine with her. That's all I'm
That
asking.
that would be a
So,
fun evening, I bet.
she would be amazing. She would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
she'd probably be laughing the whole time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because she is, and you know, she's one of those women too that is really, I think, triumphed because here she was putting herself out there to become that actress and she knew what she wanted. And at one point in time, they were like, okay, well, that's great, but now we have demands of you. We want you to lose weight or we want to change you and make you into something else. And so, what would you say if to people that, you know, tell you that, you know, hey, maybe you should change some things about yourself. You know, you're a little too forward, or maybe you should try things this way. What would you say to people like that?
Yeah, I think no, that's excellent. So I think for sure it comes down to what do you want at the end of the day? And does it sit well with you? Because I do think we get caught up in, oh, should I do this to myself? Or do I need to go buy this? Or do I need to keep up with the Joneses in the sense? And at the end of the day, it has to sit with you and how you feel about that. If you're doing it for somebody else and you're letting go of yourself in the process,
Mhm.
that's a whole nother conversation.
Now,
That's true.
if you were to interview Oprah, what's one question you would like to ask her?
Oh my gosh. You know, I would find myself not wanting to ask her what I deem like typical interview questions, like, oh, is there something you haven't done yet? Or, you know, those types of questions, or what else is left on your bucket list kind of thing. I think, because let's face it, she can do just about anything. I think for me, it's more about having that real heart to heart conversation
Mhm.
about who she is as a person and what keeps her going at the end of the day. You know, what we all know, she's already leaving a household name. But what else is there that she feels she's missing in her life?
Mhm.
You know, I think I'd want the more real, raw conversation of that topic to have with her versus checking off the bucket list or what else are you up to in career kind of deal.
Do you feel that there's anything you have missing in your life at the moment that you
Well, I think
haven't
we
done
can
yet?
all, oh, that I haven't done
That you
yet.
haven't done yet that you just feel like, yeah, I still need to.
Oh. Yeah, for sure. Like I'm all about life experiences and I do want to travel in luxury and enjoy and be able to take my family and on those experiences with us. As far as career goes, I really feel like at one point I had a nonprofit and I see myself starting another one down the road. And this one I know would be geared towards underprivileged children. And so I have an entire idea in my head of how I would want this campaign and that nonprofit to go with that. And so when I get to that place, with my agency work and with my authorship and time, that's something I would really like to create again.
What is it like sitting on the other side of an interview?
I like it. So, it's funny because like you said, I've been interviewing for 2 years straight. So it's nice to have somebody else ask me the questions and for me to be able to share my ideas and my thoughts on a platform like yours, and hoping that somebody hears something that pushes that needle for them.
And what is it like for you when, again, going back to some of the jobs you had before, you would do all this work and it was like you give them all the information, all the stats, the statistics, everything that the team was doing, and yet you were never out there. You weren't seen. They were kind of like, okay, thanks. You stay home, watch it on this little, on your phone or on a little computer. Send us all the information. But you weren't out there and you weren't being seen, and you were actually doing all the work. And at one point in time, when you asked, where else could you go if you could move up within the company? I mean, they said to you, no, this is as good as it's going to get for you. So what's it like for you now that you can do all that? You're actually being seen, you're being heard. And I mean, there is no ceiling.
I love that you said that there is no ceiling. That's one of the biggest reasons why I chose an entrepreneurial career. I was at that point, like you said, in some of the corporate worlds, and I realized somebody was always going to have a hold of me. Somebody was always going to be there to determine what I was or not capable of doing. And nobody was going to see my true talent because I was stuck in a title. I was stuck in a square box. I was stuck in an environment where we weren't having open conversations that were not being judged. And so I knew when I did get out that it was going to be a decision of, do I go back to something similar like that, but less toxic? Or do I fight for myself and what I believe in and in my future? I'm not saying every corporate environment is like that. There are many corporations out there who treat their staff and employees with respect and who do have healthy environments. But for me, that wasn't my situation. And I even remember saying to myself, I'm going to do this so nobody can ever fire me again. Now, I may lose clients over the years. That's a different ballgame. But at the end of the day, it's still on me to decide who I work with and who my team partners with so that everyone gets the best out of both worlds. And I will always strive to partner with those who share a similar vision or even can help create a new one. It's just who I am. It's who I kind of walk towards as, my people, I guess you would say, and people that are inspiring to me in those senses. And so the day I walked out, I knew I was never going to go back. Did it, question how was I going to make the money, or how was I going to maintain a lifestyle and be able to pay the bills? Yes. And I found myself in some sticky situations and it wasn't fun. I'll be honest, I would never, wish somebody upon it, but we do go through these things for a reason so that we can look back and be grateful for where we are today. And I will always continue to take the big risks. It's just who I am. And I have been like that for almost 20 years now.
Have you ever thought about maybe putting out like some type of workbook that says, okay, you're in this situation now and you don't like it. So what are you going to do to get out of it? You've been, like, for instance, at one point in time, you said you were on unemployment for 2 years and you really were beating the pavement, like beating the books every day to get a job because it was during COVID, I believe you said.
Right.
And so,
Yeah, so it's during the first recession. Yeah.
yeah. So to have like something out there that challenges women where they say, well, yeah, I know that's kind of easy, but I don't know if I'm ready, and say, well, what are you going to do about it? You don't like the situation you're in. So how are you going to get out of that? How are you
Yeah,
going to do that?
right. I think for me, producing an individual workbook is a different project. I find I am more helpful in situations where I'm having one-to-one conversations with people who are in kind of a sticky situation or don't know what decision or path they want to go on next. And yes, always share my story. And I hope that others feel inspired to listen to other people's stories. But I do want whoever it is to realize, you know, what you dream you can achieve. I know it sounds cheesy and we hear that quote a lot, but it is true. And I'm not done dreaming yet. This is only the beginning. You know, I can tell you, I have vision boards, I have bucket lists, you know, I'm a huge visionary, and that's what keeps me going at the end of the day.
Definitely. I think, that was definitely a great way to put it, because, working one-on-one for some people has a lot more benefits than it does maybe trying to work with the masses and work with a large group of people, who
Right.
some may get your message, some may not, but you don't know how many people you're impacting. But that one-on-one and working with that one, you're going to give them the results they're looking for, and they're going to be able to gauge for you, how things are going and how you're doing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, it's really important when you are having these one-to-one conversations is allowing people to see that you see bigger for them as well, because sometimes we don't know as an individual how to navigate that.
Mhm.
And so that can be the scary part. That can make the difference between you pushing yourself into that next step, because as we've talked about before on this podcast, it's that uncharted territory and it can hold some people back. And so, when we sit down with our clientele at Luxe and Lush, it goes back to, what are your big goals? What do you see for your company? What are your visions? Because we really want, it's not just the physical piece of growing, whether a 6-figure, 7-figure business, whatever that goal is. One person's goals or their business financially are going to be different from another. What makes that business owner feel good at the end of the day so that they can sustain the lifestyle they not only want, but they desire and they deserve it? And so it's our job to make sure that we see big for them as well, and to hear that in our conversation so that they know they're supported.
Out of all, let's see, out of all the women that you've interviewed, which one do you feel is the most like you?
I'd probably, sense of humor wise, Eve Overland. So we just had so many good laughs, and I feel like her and I's sense of humor was very much on the same page most of the time. So we would find our interviews being prolonged a little bit because her and I both have squirrel syndrome. And so we just kind of fly off the cuff. But yeah, I had a great time with everybody. But as far as sense of humor goes, it would be Eve.
And let's see. So now tell us a little bit. You've been talking a little about Luxe and Lush, which is your company. Tell us some of the things that you offer to.
Yeah, for sure. So Luxe and Lush is about, as we've talked about, taking your brand from bottom shelf to top shelf because it deserves to be there. And as a business owner, you wouldn't have started your business or your brand just stay stagnant and not to be known. So what we like to do is we like to sit down. I have a luxury suite of professionals on my team, which makes my publicity agency different in the fact that not only are we working with you on how you're coming across on social, or I have a financial analyst who looks at numbers and really helps form out a financial plan for year one on your products and services and what that entails. But we do have that internal elite coaching aspect where we are coaching our clients on how we elevate you as your business grows, and from a holistic standpoint, because we do want you to see those sweet rewards out of all the hard work you've done. And so I have a team member who really niches down with our clients on how to, make processes in their own lifestyles more seamless and in flow, and any shifts they need to change. And she's amazing at it. And so as a publicity agency, I found that in my past work in public relations, there were all the other positions, but at the end of the day, it was just got to get this out for the client, and we have to produce this, and we have to write about them. But where's the holistic connection piece in that? And so that's what makes Luxe and Lush different, is that we are going to be working with our clients and are currently on a deeper level in that sense, to where we truly get to know you as a person and not just another client that is handing us over your books or your marketing pieces and telling us to make this look pretty. Because at the end of the day, a pretty picture doesn't always sell. Your audience needs to get to know you and who you are as a business owner. And so we really make sure we dive into that, so that comes across from a holistic standpoint on our social media campaign platforms. I'm the head publicist on our team, and so I make those connections, whether I'm booking for my clients on podcasts or features in magazines, that sort of thing. Because like, we just had a client meeting the other day with one client, and they had been in some amazing top tier magazines, and they were on a list of, best tips and tricks kind of deal. But that doesn't necessarily return an ROI for you as a business owner. So I told them, you in the past have paid for these positions, because at the end of the day, that does happen. It is a business, it is a marketing world. But how do we allow your audience to really see you and who you are with your products and the real why behind it? Not just your surface story that we pitch out there, but how much does this business really mean to you? And what are you truly trying to share at the end of the day? And so we try to reflect that with all the work we do. And then, of course, I love to reward our clientele. So as part of a Champagne Dreams lifestyle, we have little surprises for our clientele up our sleeves throughout each quarter, to let them know that we are here and supporting them. And we are so grateful and privileged to be able to do the work with who we are doing with.
So how do you reward yourself?
I love to be able to treat myself to a new handbag, or have a big trip we can look forward to, or, even if it's small mini weekend getaways, or it can be as humble as going for hot chocolate with my family. We love to do that this time of year. There's a little shop downtown near where we live, and they do homemade hot chocolate, and they have this fun Christmas stand that goes with it. And I always call it very Hallmark moments.
Yeah.
It looks like, half the movies they produce, but it's those moments that I love. It's creating the experiences so that we are rewarding ourselves with those at the end of the day. So like I said, it can be as small as, rewarding myself with homemade hot chocolate, or just even a mini weekend getaway, or having a day of beauty. It's like, go get your hair done, go get your nails done, or whatever that is. Is it a massage? I love getting massages, so it's just those kinds of things that help me go, because my schedule is very busy. But I do, and I'm like everybody else, sometimes we fall into a place that we forget to do those things. And so I do have to remind myself to kind of stop and take a breath and then take care of me again. And, as far as me, movement is a big part of my life and where I've been in career. And so the community I've joined in a Pilates studio here in town, I love going there. I love the girls there. It's not the grind of the work. It's really about, what is my body needing from me and how am I nourishing it in return?
And Wendy, is there anything that you want to, ask or contribute?
I do. I'm curious. I'm looking at the background of your of you in your
Mhm.
room. Okay. So I see a different color or cover rather than what I see on the book that we have.
Right.
Tell
So
me. Yeah, I wanted to understand what made you shift, or what were you trying to drive home with this cover?
right. So this cover back here is a different part of our campaign. It is what we deem the Champagne Lifestyles campaign.
Mm-hmm,
It's
mm-hmm.
at high level, it's luxury, it's feeling elite as a woman, it's, playing dress up and high designer,
Right,
what fills your soul at the end of the day. And that's a different piece of our campaign that we are marketing. And so the book, I know you can't see it. We have the book right there on top of the boxes, but
okay.
yeah. And so it's just another piece of PR for us that we want to help celebrate the champagne dreams of this book in of itself.
Okay, because I was wondering, I said, well, maybe this is that high power, next step move. So when I saw it, I was like, okay, I think I kind of get the symbolism that's on the cover that we actually have,
Right.
especially with the splotches there by the boot. So it's like, okay, we're gonna shake this grid off. It took some blood, sweat, and tears to get this done, but I'm out here. I'm high stepping. I'm getting it done.
Right. Exactly. And I love that you just
Mhm.
said that. I mean, this is me, or AKA somebody else in
Right.
that powerhouse position saying, watch me now.
Exactly.
So exactly. It still has the red shoes and mirroring the red shoes on the cover, but it's out
Right.
of the grit. It's out of the silt saying, here I am. I reached the top of my mountain.
Right. How do you like me now?
Exactly. I love it.
Look out, world, here I come.
Right?
That's it.
Well, as we're rounding up and kind of coming towards the end, Wendy, if you have anything else you'd like to ask, feel free to, ask away.
If you had one word, Callie, that describes you. Now, I already know that we have the title of the book. If you were to write an autobiography as True Grit. Now, we could probably dive into what that is, but I think all of us are able to understand that you are a spiritual soul, that you're in connection with yourself. But if you had one word that could describe you overall and what you do, what would that be? And what color would it be?
Oh, you guys are getting me good tonight. One word that I've always come to know for myself is the word hope.
Okay.
And as I've grown and developed into this new career with my agency and my authorship, it's unrelenting strength.
All right. And if it had a color?
Oh,
I know,
man.
right? I tapped into you real hard there.
You did. Okay. Well, it depends on the season.
Gotcha.
I love, I'm always a sucker for that army green color.
Okay.
Something about it. I've always been charcoal gray too. So, and then gold for sure. I love that gold color, that metallic gold. So yeah.
Okay. Nice colors, nice combination.
Yeah. Now, if
All
it's
right.
fall, it's burnt orange. So.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. I appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you. You guys have had some amazing questions tonight.
I just have one last question for you. What I want to know is, what's your favorite bottle of champagne?
Oh, yeah. Well, truth be known, I have a bottle of Dom sitting on my desk for the moment I choose to pop that baby open to celebrate with this book. There is a champagne line. I want to say it's Nicholas,
Okay.
and it's really good. But I am a sucker for Italian sparkling whites. Love them.
Okay. All right. Well, we all need to have fluted glasses and should be saying cheers right now.
That's right.
Yes, we should. We should have planned it for sure. Next time we will.
There
Definitely.
you go.
When your second book comes out
Yes.
and we're doing it to you, we're going to plan it in advance now that we're going to have the champagne.
I'll send you all the bottles. So,
All right.
yeah.
Can you leave our listeners with any words of wisdom?
I can't. And what comes through my heart right now is this question of sink or swim. What will you choose?
Mhm.
And that, at the end of the day, is what you get to decide for yourself.
Beautiful, very powerful, to say the least.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And a great way to round out the evening. Well, I thank you so much, Callie, for, answering our questions and being under fire for a little bit,
Anytime.
It worked wonders. It was a beautiful time and a very powerful story and a lot of great insight into your life and the lives of the people that you work with. And
Mhm.
For sure.
yeah, thank you so much, Wendy, for joining us and for your powerful questions there.
Thank you, and yours too, I tried to be here. I tried to be here.
Hey, you
Sure.
showed up. You showed up.
Yes, so it worked out
Yeah.
perfectly.
Yes.
I hope that everyone will join us on December the 14th. We have one of our own women from our group, Pamela Lane Lockridge. She's going to be discussing her book and workbook. So please join us then. It will be at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And if you yourself or anyone you know is a victim of sexual abuse and maybe suffering from domestic violence or HIV, please feel free to reach out to anybody at Healing Waters Global. You can find more information about us at www.healingwatersglobal.org. We have several private pages that you can be a part of and share your story, or at least listening to other women's stories and hopefully gain some encouragement and some strength from that. And we have several public pages too. But definitely, please feel free to reach out to us. Never be afraid to do that. Well, thank you, everybody. This has been a wonderful evening.
Thank you all too. And thank you for the work you're doing out in our communities.
Thank you so much. And thank you for all that you do too,
Thank
for empowering
you.
women.
Thank you.
Yes.